So now we have the background, we're going to look at putting our snowdrops and leaves on top. So we're going to start off, put your mount over the top of your piece, and we're going to start off by drawing in the stems and where we want the flowers to be. So for a piece this size, you're probably looking at about 5, possibly 6 flowers, but probably not many more than that. And we're just going to draw in there, and we'll draw the little flower on so that we know how they're going to look and where they're going to be placed. It's only a rough drawing, as long as you understand what it is that's going where, then that's fine. So another one up here, I think. Open one up here. So I'm going to have 2 open and 3 buds on mine. So I've drawn those in and they are roughly where I want them. So the next job, I will put this to one side, and the next job is to look at some stems. So you've got a square piece of green spotty fabric in your kit, and you probably want about 9 or 10 leaves out of this. So what I tend to do is just draw on some leaves, start wider at the base, and then just get narrower as you go up and try and get a little curve on them. At this stage, I would make them pretty much all the same height, because you can vary the height by pulling them down as you put them on your piece. But what I do try and do is just vary the width a little bit, and also vary the angles that are coming in. As you can see there, drawing on a few, going the other direction. Right, so I'm actually going to put this to one side because I've got some that I prepared earlier. So if I move this back, we're now looking at about 3 of them to go in the background before we put anything else on. It gives a sense of depth to your piece. So that's what we're going to be doing first of all. So it's about looking to see where you think they could go. I think that one will look quite good there. It's not always easy to know exactly where you want them to go. We'll have another one coming in about here. And then maybe another one there. And then offer your mount up again. Make sure you're happy with the position of them. I need to bring this down a little bit. You want to make sure that you can see what you've actually got there. So I think that's probably about right. So now I'm just going to stitch up the middle of each of these stems with one line of your clear thread. And what you can do is you can jump across to each one. And then once we've snipped these ends off, what we can also do is, if we can find them, there we are, snip the bits of thread in between. And we'll just offer the mount up again, just to make sure that that's still okay. So yes, that's fine. So pop that to one side again. And now we bring over the white piece. And this is where we're going to draw on our snowdrop flowers. So I've got 5 flowers. I've got 3 buds and I've got 2 open flowers. So the buds are just like a little sort of semi curve, and then the actual flowers are 2 of these joined together by a little line in the middle. Now then, you might have to have several goes to make sure you get the sizing right, but you've got your drawing on your actual piece to actually measure up against. So you can see there that I've drawn those out and they are now ready for cutting out, but I do have some here that I've cut out earlier. So I'm just going to give those a quick spray, and then I'm going to offer those up onto my piece of work. There we are. So they are all done now, and they just need to be stitched in place. So for that we're going to use the grey thread just to give a little bit of definition. So what we're going to do, just going to cast on here to one side just to make sure it's all running properly. And then using the grey thread, we're just going to go round just inside the edge of each of our white flowers, just round once, just to give a little bit of definition there. And then when we come down here, we go round each of the little petals here in the same way with the open flower. And again, we're just jumping between these. And we can cut all those straggly threads later on. There we are. Now, like before, I'm just cutting all the little bits in between, just to make sure that it's all neat and tidy. It's always a good idea to cut your threads as you go along. Missed one. There we are. There you go. So the next job now is to actually take the green thread, and we shall do the stems, and we shall add a little bit of stitch detail to the open snowdrops, that little bit of green that you see when the snowdrops are open. So when it comes to stitching stems, I prefer to stitch upside down. And what you're going to need to do is cast on and then just go up and back the stem once. That's going to be plenty thick enough for a picture of this size with a delicate flower. If you are doing a larger picture, you may need to go up and down more than that, depending on the thickness of the stem. So I'm going to go up and down the stem, but I'm also going to cut in and do these little spurs off the stem, which holds the flower, and the little green cup, which actually sits on top of the flower. And if you're happier going back down the stems forward rather than backwards, then by all means turn your fabric around. To stitch the little green bits on the open flowers, I'm just going to change my machine to free motion zigzag and pop it on a width of about 1.5 and just run along here. Like that, and then come down to this one. Like that. Okay. So again, we have plenty of bits of thread that we need to cut. So we'll just cut those. There we are. Let's just offer up our mount again. See how that's looking. And that's looking pretty good. So the final stage now is to get the rest of the leaves on. So that's just a case of giving them a spray and then thinking about where you're going to want them. So I think we're going to want something up there. That. The good thing about 505 is that you can actually reposition things if they're not quite in the right place, which is always a bonus. It's just a case of putting them in place and then seeing how you feel about them, whether you're happy with where they are or whether you want to move them around a bit. So let's offer up that. So that's not too bad. Let's just bring this one down a little bit. Maybe move it over a little bit as well. And then we can move that one over a bit too. Right, let's have a look at that and see how that looks. So that's starting to take shape nicely. So we just now need to stitch those in place. Again, I'm going to use the clear thread. So I've just changed my sewing machine back to free motion straight stitch rather than zigzag. And what I'm going to do is just run up each of these now that haven't been stitched already. Jumping across. Now it's just a case of tidying things up a bit. Just trying to work out where all the bits in between are. I think that's basically where we are now. I think that's done. And there you have it. There is your snowdrop piece all ready for mounting.